everyone, episode number 299 of Should I Start a Podcast? It's Ronsley. Ever wanted to sit in on one of my coaching calls? Well, here is one of them with an amazing human being and leader who doesn't know how to monetize her worth. Well, not really. She's actually a $8 million business owner, but you'll hear her talk about how much she has done, but it takes her a while even to reveal that to me. Tash, who's in this call, heard me speak at an event and booked in a time to chat about her business and her podcast. In this episode, you will learn how to not do work for free, but value your worth in business. Understand how to look at online products and learn to package your value up and monetize it. We take a deeper look at being interviewed on other podcasts, how it can grow your business, and I get asked the question about audiences that you can sell to. But we talk in depth about charging for what your audience wants from you and how you valuing what you do makes you better at what you do. All this and more on this week's episode of Should I Start a Podcast? And make sure you listen all the way to the end, because I'll break down this episode to give you 3 small steps so you can execute right now to make this listening experience an execution experience. And also, if you know a business owner that needs to hear an episode about why a podcast is the best business development tool, please share an episode with them. Pretty please, actually. Enjoy the show.
Vindicator 1, this is launch control. Please advise when pre-flight checklist is complete.
Vindicator 1 to control. Pre-flight is complete. All indicators read green.
This is Should I Start a Podcast? A show for business owners looking for tips, tricks, and ingenious hacks when it comes to growing a business using their podcast. This is your host, Ronsley. He's interviewed more than 1,400 people and has been listened to over 5 million times in 133 countries. A TED speaker, author, and a podcast purist who believes that we can use our voices to grow our business and our influence. You know, because every conversion in any business always happens in a conversation. And now, Ronsley.
I want to be of most use to you. So I've read what you're looking to get out of this session, and it's a bit different to everyone else. So, you're my second session out of 28 or something people that booked in for this. So maybe you give me a rundown. You said you just basically want to get on other people's shows.
Well, yes and no. I think when I listened to you at Her Empire Builders, I got a lot out of your session. And I feel like it helped me clarify a little bit about what I'm trying to do, because I feel like I'm a little bit lost and don't really know what it is I want to do in the online space. However, every time I start brain dumping or when I listen to your session, everything kept coming back to leadership and team. So I thought, all right, so what I've written, even down now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different clients I've given work for free. I've written down what they most needed from me and then highlighted the commonalities. And again, it comes down to what they're seeking from me from a team perspective, how I engage people to get the best results. Now, when I was in your session, when you were in Noosa for Her Empire Builder, and we kept reworking that paragraph, I wrote, I wasn't born a leader, but I learned how to become an exceptional one. And that's true. I have no formal training and I feel like I was quite shy when I was born, but through experience and career and all of that, I would probably say one of my strongest qualities is how I lead teams. And that's probably been my career success. So I feel like I'm asking 2 things of you. 1, to help guide that direction, and 2, how I get into this online space, because it frightens me a lot. I have listened to a number of people talk, yourself included. A lot of what I've listened to, because I've chosen things of interest to me, a lot of what I've listened to, I agree with. Just don't know how to go from where I am. It never even occurred to me that I would be thinking about doing stuff like that. But I've been interviewed on a couple of podcasts before.
Okay, so let's backtrack a little bit. And it's totally fine. This space is it changes so quickly. I have been blessed. I keep telling my parents, I literally have been blessed because I decided to do my bachelor's in computer engineering, and everything is built right now on computer science and engineering. So I understand maybe things better and quicker and faster because of that. Let's talk about leadership and team. So you don't have a product. You're in Tina's thing. Your goal obviously is to have an online product at some
Correct.
point.
So I'm currently doing her idea to launch and working through her program. And what spurred this on was I regularly have people coming to me seeking advice of some sort. So 5 minutes before you and I have jumped online, I've received a message for someone else saying, can I jump on a Zoom with you? I'm taking the plunge to move to Brisbane for career advancement. I want to grow more, but I need to talk to you about staying connected to my local community for events, how to advance my business online. I need to understand how you do what you do. So I get messages regularly.
So say that again. What are they looking for? I mean, you also mentioned before that you didn't charge for stuff. What are those services are they getting off you that you're not charging for?
Did you really have to ask that question?
Yeah, I almost missed that, but someone came and knocked me on the shoulder and said, hey, remember that one? So Tash, let's go there.
So that's the very reason I've actually joined Tina, because what I found was I was regularly spending a great deal of my time helping people because I had answers that they were looking for. And I thought it's time to perhaps package this up a bit and somehow monetize it. So I've had a number of people that have come to me that actually have their own teams, and I've had 2 businesses that are a one-man band, but consistently they're all seeking the same thing. And it's often about relationship building great teams rather than getting involved in the cogs. Some of the companies that I've worked with have had financial challenge and disconnect from the team, so they haven't seen a way through. So I've helped them break through that part. So then by joining Tina's group and doing the idea to launch, I thought, right, there's obviously something I have that people are seeking. I need to be able to articulate what that is and monetize it so that people can have it, but it's at a cost and move forward. And I'm very interested in podcasting. I just didn't see myself as taking that journey just yet, but I have been interviewed on some podcasts, and by being interviewed on podcasts has increased the people that contact me and say, would you mind if, which is wonderful. But again, they all ask for a similar thing. So I thought, all right, is what I've got to offer leadership, people and culture, but I don't really know.
Tash, there are 2 things here that are really important to know. One is the kind of person you're going to help through the leadership and team and all that kind of stuff. And extremely important, like who's that person? Are they working somewhere? Do they see themselves as investing in themselves, or are they business owners? Actually, forget the second thing. Let's answer that question first.
Yes. Every single one of the people that I've written down definitely sees themselves investing in themselves. So for instance, one of the people works for a transport company and she was promoted into a role and she wanted to invest in herself to grow so that she could do the best in the role she'd just gone into. 2 of the people own their own business and have done for some time, but their business was not performing where they wanted it to. So different sorts of people, but essentially still wanting the same things.
When you're saying they want the same things and they ask you, hey, Tash, would you mind if, what are those things that they're asking? Like, what do they say? I would like this from you. And then you can tell me what you landed up discovering. Yeah.
So they say to me, I would like to know how you do what you do, which is very big because I don't know where to begin. So when I often say, what do you mean by that? What part of what I do are you looking at that you're liking or whatever? And they said, particularly with your team, we never see you. We always see team, but somehow behind it all, it's you.
So you have a team, obviously?
Yes, 25 people.
And they do what?
I own 2 hotels.
It's crazy that I don't know that from the start. So can you give me a bit of background of what you do? I would love to know that. I understood it's like, you're getting into business for the first time. You're a fucking entrepreneur. You're proper. Can you give me some background?
I've owned 5 hotels and I currently only own 2. One is in Orange in New South Wales, Central New South Wales, and one is in Wodonga, which is regional Victoria. I am part of the franchise group that's Quest Apartment Hotels. I bought my first hotel when I was 28 years old and it had 20 rooms. So very small and couldn't afford a lot. So I did all of the things. And I bought that in 2005. In 2007, I bought my second hotel and I won Franchise of the Year. I just love what I do. So it's just, I create teams of people that run really great hotel space.
Amazing. Phenomenal. So I understand that you're in the position where you're like, I don't know what to deliver, but you obviously have enough to deliver in terms of people are trying to build teams all the time. Even a solopreneur, the hardest thing for any business to grow is to go from a team of one, which is you,
Yes.
to a team of two. That is the hardest jump. Then the complexities get worse when it becomes, 10, and then when you have to have nested teams and that reports to that team and that. So there's all these different elements and how to lead all the teams, how to structure the meetings around having all those
Correct.
things.
My first team only had 5 people. It was reception, housekeeping, because it was a 20-room hotel, so it was little, 5 people. And I read the Emyth by Michael Gerber. And when I finished reading that, I Googled 5-star hotel organisation chart and I printed it. And so all of the jobs, and then I wrote my name in the boxes that I was in. And then I started to work out which boxes do I want to take my name out of first, and who do I need to find that can do a role like that so that when I take my name out, my name stays out. And then I built my empire. Obviously, I don't run a 5-star but then I bought my second hotel, which had only 40 rooms. So I now had 60 rooms in my pool, but my team went from a team of 5 to a team of 20. And I really struggled. And I won Franchise of the Year, and I was in financial review and all of those things. And then I almost went into administration. I was indecisive. I was making lots of mistakes. Things were out of my control. Things were in my control. It was just fucking all over the place. So I sold one business, the 20-room hotel, for only $1 million, but that's a lot for 20 rooms. The second hotel, the sale fell through 4 times because I made so many mistakes. I lost $500,000 and I sold it for half of what I paid for it. So I feel like all these experiences. And then I moved, because I was living in inner city Melbourne, in Hawthorn, East Melbourne. I moved to regional New South Wales. So I live in Albury-Wodonga border. And I went into a partnership, and that the person started stealing money from me. So I had that experience. So I exited him from the business, and I now turn over $4.5 million in this hotel, and I'm in a partnership with Quest Orange that's now valued at $8 million. So I feel like I know some stuff. I need you to package it now.
It's like this, right? I mean, the thing is that you're packaging it with Tina. So I don't want to give you any more frameworks that's going to confuse you. She probably has some sort of framework in terms of how she's taking you from idea to launch. The way I see it is you are like proper female entrepreneurs, that you should be known as a female entrepreneur for doing all these things. Then you should be leading in this space. And this is probably a really good reason that women don't get featured more, is because they're at a position like you are like baller and have done all these things, but they're like, I don't even know what to say. Maybe the conversation is, what will people think if I say it this way? How do I have to edit it for the world? If those are some of the thoughts that you're having, then let's talk about that.
Okay, because I'm worried about being showy. I'm worried about getting it wrong for other people. It's all good and well for me to have been a Franchise of the Year, to have almost gone into administration, to have had my business have money stolen. They all happened to me, and I can fix me. But if you were my client and something happens to you, that would worry me.
I totally understand that. And that's another thing that you have to be very careful of, Tash, super careful, that if you are not aware of those boundaries, you start attracting clients that don't have those boundaries. You are not responsible for anyone's decisions. You're not. You can't take that burden upon yourself. That burden leads to paralysis as well.
That's potentially why the people that have come to me, I've offered it at no cost, because I feel like if I wasn't charging well, it's a conversation. However, having embarked on Tina's thing, I do want to monetize this. And what I also feel like I do well is I share my experience. So rather than saying this is what you should do, I say this is what I did when this occurred, and this was what happened. In hindsight, these are some of the things I would have liked to have thought about or done for myself. So it's an experience that I am relating it to. So sharing that vision and allowing them to interpret it themselves.
Hey, this is Sandy Waters. I'm a radio host for over 20 years and help people sound better on their podcast. I'm on the inside of We Are Podcast members, or as we like to call it, the Whamly. If you were thinking about growing that business using your podcast and your online presence, come join us on the inside. I would love to meet you. James and Ronsley, they coach us to get those recurring results in our business. If you want that roadmap, which we all follow to get those recurring results, you can download it at roadmap.wearepodcast.com. Now, here's Ronsley.
Can I paint the picture for you, Tash? The picture is that you're having conversations with other leaders around topics that highlight leadership and team. And in a year from now, you've had 52 of those conversations on a platform that you've created about leadership and team. So no one has to guess as to like what value you bring, because these are just conversations, right? These are just conversations that you're having with a bunch of leaders, and they know you as being the center of this conversation because you're highlighting stuff. You do it in your own way because it's your show. You can say, hey, this is what I did for myself. So that way you remove the burden of, I don't want to be showy, because you're not like, this is the shortcut. The shortcut is have an interview type show and structure it in a way that you get the story out of the person and highlight your experience over that. What's landing for you?
Yeah, that is exactly what I would like to do. So one of the podcasts that I was a guest on was primarily, I was part of a peer-to-peer networking group. And so the person interviewing me was also part of that group. So she sort of highlighted what my experience was when COVID had just hit. So I was talking about my experience, and what I genuinely loved was sharing some of the choices I'd made and the experiences I'd had and the outcomes. And what I enjoyed as well was the phone calls and conversations I had following that were people from the public and private sector trying to understand how they could create that for themselves in their own team using those experiences. Because what I actually do is I analyse teams and understand how to create a team through profiling. So when I'm recruiting, I actually recruit teams that all offer something different, and it's like a jigsaw puzzle. And if a staff member leaves, I don't replace that jigsaw puzzle. I change the jigsaw. Does that make sense?
100%. But the thing is that what we're trying to convey will come with more conversation that you have with people. And the more that happens, so if I was you, I mean, think of the fact that you're having these conversations with people, but actually ask them questions more than they ask you questions. This is my suggestion. I would use that at this point to my advantage. I'm like, okay, people are getting in touch with me. That's fucking amazing. So I would do that, and I would start making notes on what topics these are.
The local TAFE, so Wangaratta TAFE, has asked if I would be interested in adding a layer into their business studies course so that students get to talk with a real life person. Because I actually went to one of their luncheons and I said, one of the things that I think is wrong with the tertiary education system is it's textbook. Then these people leave these tertiary education, start in the real world, and it's often very different from what they're expecting. They could talk to real life people and understand what works, what doesn't, why does it work, why doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, my first business failed after having a Master's of Business Administration. I had an MBA in leadership and psychology. I should have known how to run a business. But when you run a business, it's very different to like actually having all those tools. So I agree with you 100%, Tash. And I think that whatever your idea to launch, how far away are you from that?
I'm procrastinating. So I really should have completed it by now, and I'm sitting on my hands.
I'll give you a couple of solutions here. What I would do if I was in a position is put half an hour aside to just do that just have a rhythm. It's in your calendar. You land up doing it. If you land up not liking it, you can just literally look at it for half an hour and not do anything.
Yeah.
But if you land up going on a roll, like just do a little bit more. And I promise you'll make the thing. It's just that initial Band-Aid thing. Like once you pull it off, you've got so much of value. It is crazy. And these are the stories that need to be heard. In fact, if you go around finding more women leaders, to have more of these conversations, not only then you get positioned as this person And then you can create a community around that. Then your course becomes something around that, which is actually really important for a lot of leaders going in, how to structure, how to do this, how to do that, how to like have your meetings, how to have the agendas for your meetings, how to have your reviews, how to lead, how to have your monthly CEO debrief. There's so many different elements. What numbers should you look at as a leader in what position?
I agree with you, because when I've spoken to a lot of these people, this is the thing. First of all, what I do is say, whatever's in your head, just start talking, tell me. And I just jot it all down. And then I start to batch it, and I just get a highlighter and I'll choose pink, and I go, right, everything that's the same is pink. And I'm like, now let's categorize it, because when you look at something so big, it's overwhelming. When we break it down, you can just do one thing at a time and we can move forward. And so then we set 90-day action plans, and they have to get through them. And one of the people that was actually facing administration, I've had that experience, so I know what that felt like. And I said, I can't get you the money, but if the money finds its way to you, we need to work out how you're going to never find yourself in that situation again, how you're going to pay it back with interest, and how you're going to move forward.
Was that a potential client type of person? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, it was. She's just opened her second business. It's amazing. She's doing a wonderful job, and I regularly keep in contact with her. And when you start a business, you're so passionate, but you're emotionally tied to it, and you've got to sever that tie so you can see it for what it really is.
The same goes to your situation, right? That's why you're, yeah. I have been working on a tool sheet that I will share with you, but it's not for public use yet. So you just have to make a copy. I think the strategy sheet will help you tremendously in terms of creating something for you and your business and making something that is useful and you feel excited to do. Because I just think that you want to make this impact, but like, I think this is the thing with everyone, that we want to look good doing it. And we like, if we don't look good, then we might have got it wrong. And I can totally relate. And I can tell you that it's not something that I deal with easily, but it's something that I have to deal with. And Tina is probably the best person in terms of a coach to have.
I do know that I can have a one-on-one with her as well. I might actually have this very conversation with her as well. She knows me, but I probably need to open up a bit more about where I'm actually at. And then down the track, I think I probably want to rebook some time with you, because I am interested in podcasts. I just don't know where to begin.
Yeah, actually, this tool sheet is something that I've decided to make for primarily the same reason, that it's like, how can I kind of direct someone in a way that it's not about microphones or any of that stuff? It's actually about what to say, because that matters more than anything else. The main thing is that you have to read through this, but you go through the strategy sheet and it'll ask you a bunch of questions, and spend some time answering these questions in terms of like, in the best case scenario, don't overthink it, just fill it out. Once you filled out the strategy, it'll ask you here for you to be episode 1. So you're starting from episode 1. When you want to go live, you can just pick a date, and then what's your frequency. And then it'll give you a checklist. So here's a checklist of what you have to do before you go live. So if you click on that, set up your microphone, Dropbox, confirm podcast titles if you need any of that. So it's not like you don't know where to begin. Now you know exactly where to begin. Like, you have all this stuff, and then you go back to your strategy sheet. And then once you enter this, it'll give you, so for example, if I entered 1, in your case, episode to go live, let's say, I don't know, November 25th, and say every 7 days. And then also, if once you go to the publish sheet, which is here, it'll populate the publish sheet for you. And this has basically everything, like the guess what, when you record, just to keep track of everything. So this is your sheet for your regular podcast. So you have 93 days before episode 1 goes live. I kept an example here just in case anyone wanted to know. This is an example of mine for episode 267. Here is a one sheet of how I prepared for it. So this is the person I interviewed. I had all this stuff, so everyone can get an idea of what you could prepare for your podcast, and just everything else. Like, here are the assets. So I've given the whole Dropbox folder with, like, after the episode got published, we created a breakdown, which means from the breakdown, we got quotes. This is how we got the quotes. Here's the Facebook content. Here's the Instagram content. Just examples of how we use that for that particular podcast with all the images and all that kind of stuff. So just ideas of how to use the sheet. And then how to measure progress really is the next sheet here. This is like, how many episodes have you in the bank? How many have you recorded? How many listens have you gotten for this episode? What is your average per thing? How many leads have you got? And what partnerships are you creating from your show? So it just gives you everything in one sheet. This is actually for our sort of people in the membership. So I'm still just developing it, but I'll share it with you. But the strategy would help you tremendously, Tash, because I think that the idea really is this. You've got to share your stories, but it's not only about you sharing your stories, it's about you highlighting a cause. And the best way and the easiest way to do that is to have conversations with people, because not only do you create good content from that, you also open doors that are just crazy. The amount of doors that podcasting will open for you is just crazy. So you just have to work out how that ultimately leads into what you're delivering with Tina's idea to things. So I suggest right now putting us time aside to do those things for sure.
Yeah.
Do Tina's thing and then do your one-on-one with her. But I think more and more, you got to remember that these voices, your voice and all the voices that you're going to highlight are so important, because there'll be a lot of people looking at you, for example, around you, even not only your team, family. It's just like, if you give yourself the permission, you're automatically giving them permission as well to kind of do these things. So I think it's just starting the journey is probably the thing that we just got to get on.
Thank you very much for this time. Look, I've taken some notes. So everything you've said has made sense. And
what makes most sense?
Strategy makes the most sense and the most that I like, because I feel like when I have structure and strategy, I've got a roadmap.
Yeah, you're right. Once you have the strategy, then you can plan. I mean, that's probably should be in your course as well, right?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ronsley.
You're very welcome. See you, Tash. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Isn't Tash amazing? Now that you've listened to this episode, here are 3 small steps that will help you charge for your value. Number 1, what are people asking from you? Take 20 minutes and a blank piece of paper and write down these topics. Think about what the last questions have been asked of you are, whether it's clients, not clients, and anyone else in between. What are the topics? Take 20 minutes out of your day, blank piece of paper, and write them down. Number 2, actually, even if you do just number 1, it'll make a huge difference. But number 2, allocate 30 minutes a week in your calendar to break down each of these topics. If you collate these topics and spend 30 minutes a week breaking each of these topics down, you'll have endless amount of content to create. So that's number 2. Number 3, write down next to each of these topics who you could interview that would be a great voice for that topic. Now, not only do you have amazing topics, you have amazing guests, and you have the whole topic broken down. Over time, these reps will make a huge difference to you and your business, and a huge impact on you making your podcast more profitable and more impactful. If this is the first episode you've listened to all the way to the end, or if you're a regular, thank you. I love that you're here. Check out our back catalog at shouldistartapodcast.com. Subscribe to the show, please, and give me a review and rating. It really helps me get found more and helps more business owners realize that this podcast is there for them. If you are a business owner, podcaster, and want to join others just like you in a group where we share tactics and ideas on what's working for us when it comes to using our podcast in the best possible way, go to wearepodcast.com/group. It is free. And also in that group, you will hear all the latest announcements from Australia's first podcasting conference for business owners, We Are Podcast, which is happening this year, 2022, the 7th annual We Are Podcast. Stay tuned next week when we are going to go through another coaching call where we cover lots, including why a coach is important for your growth. So don't forget to subscribe to the show to get that episode as soon as it gets released. Until then, much love. All right. So you still till the end. You found this useful and you have a business or you have a podcast and a business, and you kind of want to make it work for you and grow your business using this podcast, well, you know what? That's something that I have helped thousands of people do and thousands of businesses do in different forms, through an agency in a one-on-one fashion, through a conference, in a group, and obviously in courses and stuff. So please, I want to be able to give you something that you can use to get recurring results in your business using a podcast. We call it the Recurring Results Roadmap. It is years of putting this in practice. It is the blueprint to get results and recurring results using a podcast. If you'd like that, send me a message, ronsley@gmail.com. I want to hear from you. I want to hear your voice, or want to hear from you. So if you've listened to this and you want that roadmap, please send me an email, ronsley@gmail.com. I want to hear from you. Much love. I'll see you in the next episode.